Yeah, I'm muted again. Maybe Trey Lance. I'm not ready, but you know what? Maybe Trey Lance is more ready than we expected for the 2022 season in year 2. Our special guest today leaking some footage of Trey Lance in practice, which he's not supposed to have. Big trouble, I think, for Javi coming. He's our guest today. Let's talk about Trey Lance at practice, looking rather sharp, making some big throws on the practice field. Matt Mayoko reporting on General Manager John Lynch and Vic Fangio, maybe a potential defensive coordinator in the future for the 49ers, on the golf course together. Senior Bowl reports, a ton going on today's live episode of Locked On 49ers. Coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker. Got a very special guest coming up in just a moment. He's a big part of 49ers Twitter and making some big waves recently with some tweets, with some videos that were attached, and we're going to have a lot of fun with those. Brandon Aiyuk with a little social media action of his own. Can we take some things away from that as we head into the 2022 offseason, which is already jam-packed with action? Now let's bring on today's guest. This is Javier Vega. You know him. You love him. He's been on the show before. If you listen to the Fourth and Gold podcast, if you listen to Niners Nation on Mondays, what's the subtitle of your podcast for Niners Nation Mondays, Javi? And by the way, thanks for joining the show tonight.
Oh, hey there.
It's the Oh Hey There podcast. That's my soundboard.
I need a soundboard, man. Y'all got these
one,
soundboards
bro.
and stuff. I'm not cool enough. I gotta go buy one.
Always around the football at that time. Made a great catch.
Soundboard's where it's at. Yeah, Mondays
If I
with
have
Leah
to
Luna.
$2,500 on some tags and tags for this new car, then I
you
would have.
can get a soundboard for a lot less than that property that you own that is a vehicle. What's up about
Golly.
property
Have
tax
you
for
got-
a vehicle? Do that many people live in their cars in Arkansas? Is that what's going on?
It's
You would
weird.
think so. It's a one-time thing. So it's not like you have to pay it every year, but it's just that one time you got to pay it. Have y'all ever been blindsided by something like that before?
I
Because
used to live
it
in
caught me off
Oklahoma.
guard.
I lived in Oklahoma for 7 years, and it's the same process. Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, they all do it that way. It's really, really
Dude.
weird. I live in Texas now. It's all built into your car note, so that's just what it is. So
I thought I was going in and about to pay $70, and I walked out having to pay $2,500, almost $2,600.
Keisha says, Croc, what are you worried about? You're making bank over here. You have this podcast empire right now. You're making more probably today with these. You're probably making more right now live stream. I wish we could see it, the number. Like we could see the total of Croc's like energy growing like a video game, how much money he's making right now as he's podcasting. You're worried about a couple $100 over here for your, what kind of card you get? Probably some kind of super nice high-end vehicle that you're driving. You're worried about this extra cash you had to throw in on the side. When
First of all, it wasn't a couple hundred. It was a couple thousand. Okay, so that's different. So, okay, but I got Dodge Charger with a Hemi.
the
something
Hemi.
Oh, see, you went Hemi. If
I had to go Hemi.
Yeah, it's $2,600 in the state of Arkansas if you get the Hemi. It's only at like $1,500 if you don't get the Hemi. So
Yeah, but you got it. Sometimes you got to. You can't. I can't have somebody pull up next to me and them have a Hemi and me not, because then that's kind of a measuring. I'm trying to get going. You
Oh
can't.
my gosh.
yeah, I mean, I would understand if I was losing my hair, I'd probably have to spend more on my vehicle too.
That's what it is. First it was the beard. I had to grow a beard. Then I had to get a Hemi.
Yeah, no, it's totally understandable in that case. But you have a rep. You have a rep to obtain and uphold, Croc, that I don't have. Like I can have the ugliest beater car. Nobody's gonna care. Nobody would even think twice if I pulled up in that. I think you got to have a little something. You probably have to go aftermarket too. You throw some tint on the windows at least so people can't see you in public.
Yeah, the windows is murdered out.
Yeah, see, I knew it. Javi, we got to start here. I got a bone to pick with you, Javi, because you sent 49ers Twitter ablaze this week, really in the last 24 hours, with some videos you threw out there of practice footage, which you're not supposed to have, Javi. I'm not going to ask you how you got it, but what I will say is you sent 49ers Twitter into a fervor, and you got people all excited about Tre Lance. We're supposed to be talking about Tom Brady now. You got everybody back on the Tre Lance bandwagon. And what I want to say to you is you showed all the good clips from practice. Where were those picks he was throwing in practice? Where's all the bad stuff? Did you edit that yourself, or did you only get the good clips of just some ridiculous throws from Tre Lance in practice? And by the way, as pointed out by Crocs guy Will Blackman, probably sacked on one, kind of threw behind another guy. It was a nice throw, but the DBs were slowing down. There's no pads on. What can we take from this practice footage, Javi?
I don't think we take anything from the practice footage. I just think it's practice, right? Like, this is kind of what Fred Warner mentioned late in the season. This kid's going to make some amazing throws. He's testing things out and see what he can get away with, what he can't get away with. I mean, yeah, maybe he was a sack. Maybe he did throw behind somebody, but I think the stuff that I took away from it is the elite traits that he has, right? He's able to move to his left, cross his body, and throw an absolute dot, regardless of being sacked or not. And then the other one, I guess, would be a touchdown in whatever period they're running. It's kind of behind the receiver, but the receiver caught the ball. At the end of the day, the receiver caught it, and that's a touchdown. A couple other ones where he's moving to his right. And I think a part of it, if you watch it in North Dakota State stuff, he was more comfortable moving to his left. And I think that's something that's unique to him. He did it against the Texans. I think Croc posted the video of him making that throw to Aiyuk instead of going to Kittle, where he's throwing to his left, kind of falling backwards. Throws a beautiful ball. And I think just the arm talent is there. So and part of the reason why I posted them, I got them. And I posted them because, like, the last couple of days, it's just like Tom Brady this, Aaron Rodgers that, Tre Lance isn't ready. First of all, Tre Lance Tre Lance doesn't have to be ready. Like, I'm not of the belief he has to be ready right now. He just has to be competent enough to run the simple stuff, right? If he can get the simple stuff out the way, do the, your layup throws, get those out of the way, and then execute some of the other things you drafted him for, his mobility, his ability to make second chance plays, off schedule stuff. That's all going to come later. He's only going to get better as he grows. Like look at Mahomes, and I hate comparing him to Mahomes, but his first year, he wasn't a finished product. He's still not a finished product because he still admits that he doesn't understand certain defenses and certain looks. Like, this is going to be a process. I think Steve Young said it best. We're going to watch him. We're going to watch Tre Lance go from a 2 to a 10, and hopefully he gets to that 10. But right now, if that's a 2 that we saw against the Texans, I don't know. I can't even fathom what a 10 looks like, right? Can we just get him to 7 or 8? That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I like that Javi, touched on, when you asked, like, what can we take away from it? And one of the things he said was just basically getting comfortable throwing the ball. A lot of people don't really know this, but Tre Lance, he really hasn't thrown a whole lot of passes. And when you watch him, he still looks he looks like someone that's a little immature with his passing attempts. So the more times he passes the ball, the more he throws it, the more he starts to get comfortable. And when you see him making some of those throws that he did, at least just even attempting it, to me, my biggest takeaway was he's getting more comfortable. And the more comfortable he gets, the more you're going to see some of that special shine through. So obviously in the games, we've seen him do some good stuff, right? Where it's like, okay, like, that was nice. Okay, that's a nice splash play. But I think the more he gets comfortable just throwing the football in game, live action, the more we're going to start to see, this is a special player. Okay, maybe we don't have to trade everything for Aaron Rodgers, just have to trading everything to get a Tre Lance and kind of put off his development. So a lot of people talked about it. Well, you haven't seen anything in practice. Look at Mahomes, you heard all this stuff. And then you see him make some wild throws. And it's like, yeah, it's there. It's the ability that I'm looking for more than anything. And I thought the placement on some of those throws, now I saw the one you posted today, the deep ball down the left sideline, right over the outstretched hands of Josh Norman. Did you see that one, Peacock?
Yeah.
Beautiful ball placement. You couldn't throw it any better than that. That's what I want to see.
And I think
I didn't realize Javi was still leaking footage from practice that he's not supposed to have.
I only dropped one more this morning.
Yeah.
That was it.
At Javier Vega _, right?
Yeah.
That's the Twitter handle. Actually, I got to put those on the screen so everyone knows where our Twitter handles are. There we go. And the big thing with the Tre Lance footage, and I love seeing it because it's just a reminder. I think that's what it was for me. It's a reminder. It's like, oh yeah, there's a reason the 49ers traded up to number 3. We saw those throws at his pro day. We saw big throws from him. We saw the talent. We saw the athleticism in the 2 starts that he played with the 49ers, and we know consistency is important. I know if Kyle Shanahan is watching the clips you put out there, Javi, he's probably not that impressed. Kyle Shanahan wants to see him hit his back foot on a drop in the pocket and throw a ball over the linebacker in front of the safety on a dig route in time, right? That would really get Kyle Shanahan excited. We're excited to seeing the guy throw off platform, running to his left, throwing the ball back to his right, pro day stuff. Kyle Shanahan's a different beast and looks at things a different way. So I don't think there's a lot we can take from the clips you put out there, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, just because I love the work you're doing, by the way, hustling behind the scenes in the D.
Thank you.
And procuring these types of things. It's like Game of Thrones out there trying to get some practice footage. That's not something that, like, Barrows, Mayoko, they don't have the practice footage, or at least they're not putting it out there if they do. I love seeing that kind of stuff. It's just new footage that we haven't seen, and a reminder to everybody. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what the 49ers have, is this super talented ball of clay. Let's see what he becomes. I have some more takes on the readiness and all the stuff that surrounds Tre Lance as it pertains to the 2022 season that we're going to get to in just a second. Brandon Aiyuk putting out some social media stuff out there. I think maybe he's ready for the Tre Lance era as well. Speaking of Mayoko, he had some intel on the meeting between John Lynch and Vic Fangio. All of that coming up. Football season might be over, but you can still bet on football at betonline.net because there's NFL draft props. There is Super Bowl futures. The 49ers are 14-1, a top 5 team, even with a second-year quarterback next year. And who knows, according to some people, maybe the greatest quarterback of all time leading the 49ers next year. And that 14-1 might move up for the 49ers in 2022 to win that Super Bowl. And I got to shout out our guy, Nick Winkler, who just put out a tweet right before we went on the air. And he said, hey, note to Tre Lance, next year, when you're doing the parade, maybe drink some water, maybe not try to drink so much and look like a fool in front of everybody when you're doing this parade, like the last couple of quarterbacks who won it have. And that is very good advice for the next winner of a Super Bowl for the 49ers at quarterback. The latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where to find the next fired coach or NFL draft props at BetOnline.net, the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for not only betting, but sports scores and news this season. And there's basketball, pro and college hoops, hockey, boxing, UFC, casino games, Olympic coverage. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay. There's a lot of different angles to go with this Tre Lance stuff. I want to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to get to Aiyuk in just a second. I know that people are excited about that in the chat. And by the way, thanks everybody for showing up in the live chat. If you are in your car on Friday morning, listen to this podcast. We appreciate you as well. But you might want to go subscribe to the YouTube channel so you know when we go live and have a little fun with us and see how good we all look. Because you're missing out if you're just hearing the voices. I know Croc sounds good. He's got a little Trent Baalke thing going on sometimes with the voice. But we sound good, but we look good too, man. So it's really important that you see us sometimes and we can connect in a different way live on YouTube. And yeah, I love seeing everybody out there in the chat right now and listening to us live and watching us live on YouTube. But Tre Lance, okay. Tre Lance. I don't think we learned anything new this week. I love the footage. I love the plays. I love what we're seeing from him. But Javi, I want to ask you this because I think it kind of convinced some fans that he's maybe, because you don't know, right? And that's what I love about the practice footage, because you have no idea. We got to see 2 games from him on the field. He's practicing every day. What do you think he's more ready than people who haven't had a chance to see him in practice believe he is? And I know you talked to some people behind the scenes. You don't have to drop any names, Javi. You're doing work. I know you're in the DMs. Is Tre Lance more ready than everyone else believes at this point going into his second year?
Yeah, I think he's more ready than everyone believes. I think ultimately the Jim Trotter report came out today that the Niners were willing to go to him beginning of the season to start him. So if they were willing to do that at the beginning of the year this year, I'm certain they're going to feel more comfortable going to him, obviously, beginning of next year. So he's got more time to sit with the playbook. He's got a full season under his belt with practices, learning how to practice under Kyle Shanahan, learning what to expect with Kyle. And I think you mentioned it, with Kyle wants him to get to that 3 or 5 step drop, get the ball out in time. Like those things he's learning over the next over this whole season. Then, of course, the next 6 months when he's going to be working with John Beck and down in Southern California. And then it's going to translate into the next season. So I think he's as ready as he's going to ever be. Like, you're never ready until you actually get to play. Like, that whole narrative of, oh, he's not ready. Look, pre-draft, everyone said that the best situation in the NFL for one of these rookie quarterbacks, all of them, was the 49ers. You're going with Kyle Shanahan. You have a really good roster, solid defense, good run game, good offensive line. So why don't we expect this guy to be successful, right? Like, he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes week one. He needs to be Tre Lance, who can run a competent version of this offense, do the simple stuff, do the layups, follow, Kyle. And I think shout out to Grant Cohn. Grant Cohn calls it the Jimmy Gimmies. Give Tre Lance the Jimmy Gimmies and then allow him to make the other plays that he needs to make when the pocket collapses, or when his first or second read isn't there, he can make an off-schedule play. Or, hey, you draft this guy because he can move a little bit too. And I don't believe he's a run-first quarterback. I believe he's a keep his head up, down, eyes up downfield, and he'll scramble more than he'll actually run in the design run game because he doesn't seem confident in that. The term I think JT O'Sullivan used was arm arrogance with some of these throws he makes. He feels comfortable throwing the ball. So he's going to throw the ball, but if he has to run, he will do that. We saw that against Seattle. We saw some of that against Arizona. And when he was on the run, he was making some spectacular throws. So, I'm not the practice tape. People are like, oh, well, let's see him do it in the game. Did we miss the Arizona game where he made that incredible throw to Deebo Samuel, like for 35 yards on the sidelines on a rope, moving to his right? And he puts it only where you can get it. How about the stuff versus the Texans where he's in the pocket shuffling around, makes the pass to Aiyuk, the dump off to Hasty it's a small pass, but it's still a
that was a third down play.
Yeah, it was a third down play.
He moved around by time, dumped it over the line of scrimmage, and he picked it up. Yeah,
exactly. And then the other one where he's backed into his own end zone. Everyone's complaining that he didn't go to the slant to Kittle. He didn't like it. So what do? He extended the play, came back to Aiyuk, and had a big play. So yes, it may not all be there for Kyle Shanahan and Tre Lance to be on the same page right away because he's gonna want to run things out of schedule. But that's also part of what Mike McDaniel said earlier in the year. Kyle was so worried about running the perfect play with Jimmy Garoppolo and kind of doing that under Tre Lance that it's like, hey, you know what? This kid has other skills. We don't always have to call the perfect play. Let's have this kid make some plays for us as well. So bail me out too. Like that's to me, this all comes down to the marriage of Jimmy Garoppolo, the marriage of Tre Lance and Kyle Shanahan. Like as long as those two can trust each other, this is going to be a very, very potent offense. And I was on the skeptical side about Tre Lance because of his college career. But the more you go back and rewatch those games, the practice film, and you talk to some players, you talk to some people at the Senior Bowl. There's a lot of positivity around Tre Lance, and it's not. I don't think it's by coincidence.
I think that's really important too, what you just said, because and I've talked a lot about it, and even leading up to the draft, I didn't think the target originally was going to be Tre Lance at 3, just because of how little he played in college. And there's so much unknown there with a guy who's so young, 20 years old, and one season, FCS level starting ability. There's so many things that can come from that. Like we have literally never seen a quarterback prospect like Tre Lance. It's never happened that a guy got drafted that high with that resume. And people are talking about, he's not ready, or Mac Jones is more ready, or people compare him to Colin Kaepernick. And Mac Jones, here's what's crazy: Mac Jones started more games has started more games in the NFL than Tre Lance has started in the NFL and college combined. That's crazy. Like,
yeah.
Colin Kaepernick as a comparison, because Colin Kaepernick was still pretty raw coming out of college because he ran the pistol a lot in Nevada, and not a lot of people were running that stuff in the NFL, and the 49ers started running a lot of that stuff, and look, he started playing pretty well. Colin Kaepernick started for 4 years at Nevada. He had 10,000 passing yards. He had 4 times more passing yards than Tre Lance had in college, right? And so there's no comparison. There is literally no comparison to what Tre Lance is right now. There's no way he could possibly be ready with his resume. And Croc, I think you told me about this yesterday, and I didn't see it, but you talked about how Tre Lance was on with Rich Eisen, and I didn't see that interview. But he talked about how the weeks he made the biggest progression where guess what? The 2 weeks he started, right? Because he got first team reps and he got to play.
Go figure. Reps make
I
you
think
better.
that's a big part of it that people are missing out on. A guy that, when he started 2 games, but it wasn't like, oh, I had all the offseason reps with the first team and I built up that continuity and everything has been structured around me. And then the season starts and I get 2 starts to start the season. That was not the case for him. This was an offense that he was learning, trying to figure out where he fits in, not just with the offense, but as a leader of the offense and figuring out the dynamic between him and Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, and then by the way, hey, Jimmy's hurt. Now all of a sudden you got to go in and you got to play, even though you haven't had first team reps this entire time. So that's, that can be pretty difficult for a guy that's so early in his development. There was one thing that Javi hit on, and I actually like that. He talked about not having to call the perfect play for Tre Lance. And Kyle Shanahan, we know Kyle wants his things done a specific way and how he wants it done. And it kind of reminds me of like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. He is not, I don't care what anybody says. I watched him, especially his first year starting, especially the year they won the Super Bowl. You watch Patrick Mahomes film, he look at that first read, and if he didn't feel comfortable with that, he's moving and he's looking to make a play on the move and throw the ball. And coaches and coordinators and play callers, they have to get comfortable with that, knowing that this guy might see something, but let him do his special things. And I think that Kyle kind of has to like unleash him a little bit. Just let it rip and do what you got to do. Make plays. I'll coach you up. And over time, Tre Lance will figure out what he can get away with, what he can't. But I think in between all that, there's going to be some special things that happen and maybe a few ugly plays as well.
Yeah, you got to live with the good and the bad. And I think part of why I was like, ripped a Band-Aid off with Jimmy Garoppolo this season was because you want to take these lumps now. Like you could have taken them in 2021. Granted, they got to an NFC title game. Okay, fine. They made the right decision. But now you're going to have to deal with those lumps in 2022 with a roster that's aging, right? You still have George Kittle's getting older, Trey Lance getting older, Fred Warner's another year in. You got to go pay Debo. You got to figure out what's Aiyuk status. And, there's a lot of stuff going on here. But I think to me, he said it. Croc said it, Andy Reid, Mahomes, like this is what it is. Andy Reid, even when he coached in Philadelphia, he was all about structure. And, he comes from the tree that he comes from. It's all about structure. Run my offense the way I want it to be ran. He figured out when he had McNabb and Vic to be like, you know what? These guys are here to make plays. Yes, my offense works, but I'm going to allow them to add on to that. And this is something that Steve Young hit on 2 years ago in 2020 on ESPN on Monday Night Football. He's like, Kyle Shanahan wants somebody to allow him to be expansive, right? To where he can be bailed out if the play call is incorrect. He wants a coach on the field. And Tre Lance, all we heard during the draft process, smartest prospect. He picks everything up. So those things, you're putting these pieces together. If this kid is who everyone thinks he is, the Niners may have the potential to run the NFC West at the very least for the next 5-6 years before you got to pay the guy and your contract start getting weird. But there's a lot of positive out of this whole situation here. I don't care what spreadsheets say or this says that and think, like, what does the film tell you, right? That Seattle game when he came in for Jimmy Garoppolo when he got hurt, it didn't look great, but he didn't look overwhelmed, right? He just had to figure out
I think he did look a little overwhelmed to start the game.
To start.
He was all over the place. Now, hold on real quick. I did see somebody in the chat and they asked, how do you fix his accuracy? If you were to just say the Seahawks game and the Cardinals game, if that was all I had to see, I'd say yes. Like I am concerned with the accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely has to improve. You go to the game against the Texans, I saw 0 issues with accuracy.
Same. Yeah.
I don't know how y'all feel. I mean, I thought he was spot on. I thought he was accurate. I thought he threw some tight window passes. That one in the end zone to Aiyuk, you can't throw it more accurate than that, giving your guy a chance down the field. I thought he was really spot on for that game when it came to accuracy. So if he's going to give you more of that, which I don't know, we'll see. But if he is, I have no issues with accuracy. If it's what we saw from the Seahawks and then the Cardinals, then yeah, there's some improvement that have to happen. I think a lot of it starts with his feet.
Yeah, and accuracy is something you change in the off season, and you don't change in season. And they'll make some incremental changes that'll happen year after year after year after year as he gets ready. He gets used to throwing the NFL ball, as he works on his footwork, as he works on his mechanics and everything else. It's a long term project as far as accuracy goes. But we've seen him make accurate throws, and the arm talent is the least of my worries when it comes to Tre Lance in the NFL. Next, I want to ask Javi about some of his favorite prospects from the Senior Bowl. Both Croc and Javi were at the Senior Bowl, and the social media comments from Brandon Aiyuk. I think Brandon Aiyuk's ready. He's ready for some Tre Lance era to come to San Francisco next. And by the way, stick around for a little bit of a extra bonus chat, a little overtime in the chat after the podcast is over. This time of year, I think most of y'all pretty much given up on your New Year's resolutions. I have not. It's not going great, but I haven't given up yet. And a big reason why I haven't given up is because Built Bars are part of my plan, and it makes things a lot easier because it's kind of cheating that you feel like you're getting a snack and you feel good about what you're eating. And it's not really a resolution when you actually enjoy eating what you're eating. And that's what it is for me with Built Bars. They've got the new strawberry flavored Built Bar, which is fantastic, and the Built Bar Puffs. Have you tried Built Bar Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All Built Bars covered in 100%. Not all. There's a couple that are not covered in chocolate if you're not a chocolate lover, but most of them are covered in legit, delicious, 100% real chocolate. So you feel like you are getting a treat, a high-calorie treat when you're eating a Built Bar, but they are low in calorie. Replace your candy bars with these. I mean, come on. Knock off 150 calories every time you reach for a snack. 130 calories in Built Bars, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Go to built.com right now. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, fellas. Brandon Aiyuk. If you're in a keeper league, if you're in a dynasty fantasy league, is Brandon Aiyuk the guy to go trade for this offseason? I feel like there's so much opportunity for him down the field, some bigger plays. They're working out together in the offseason. They have already showed a little bit of a rapport through Aiyuk's second year and now out of the doghouse in his second year, by the way, and Tre Lance's rookie season. I think there's a lot of potential there. And Aiyuk going on social media, and I don't know if this was spurred on, Javi, I'm going to give you credit, even if you don't deserve it. I don't know if this was spurred on by the practice footage you were throwing out there, but I believe Brandon Aiyuk, around the same time you started putting those out there, said, "Deep ball me, please." Is that a dig at Jimmy G, or is that just excitement for the future for Brandon Aiyuk? And is he going to have the same year 3 breakout that Deebo Samuel had? Croc, I'm going to go to you first.
You're on mute.
All right, Croc's muted. Javi, we're going to you.
My bad. I'm back. Okay. If you just take the Texans game into account, we saw Tre Lance throw 2 30+ yards passes attempts down the field to Brandon Aiyuk. So I'm pretty sure Aiyuk's like, hey, I'm gonna have these opportunities with Tre Lance. That's exciting to me. I'm gonna work on my long routes, getting separation, stacking defensive backs, and run routes, knowing, hey, I'm not just running somebody off. He potentially could really throw the ball downfield to me. So it could be a little excitement knowing who's that quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say yes to all 3 of those questions you asked. Yes, it's a little bit of dig at Jimmy. Yes, it's excitement for Aiyuk. And yeah, he should be able to take the next step because he has all the physical gifts. Aiyuk was my favorite wide receiver in that draft class. I said it on my show. I said it on Twitter plenty of times. I thought that was a guy that fit the Kyle Shanahan profile. I know CeeDee Lamb probably fits the profile too, but I didn't think we were going to get him at 13 at the time or 31. I don't think he was going to be there. So the next guy was Brandon Aiyuk. So I was like, yeah, that's the guy. And as far as the deep ball me, please, yeah, I mean, just turn on the tape. How many times Aiyuk wide open, he doesn't get the ball thrown to him, right? How many, when Trey's out there, the ball's going down the field. It's just he's looking touchdown to check down, whereas Jimmy is check down to touchdown. So you should see a more explosive passing game with Tre Lance and Brandon Aiyuk and even Deebo Samuel, who, so for some reason people think he's not a deep threat. The guy's got burners. Like, did we not see his explosiveness in the run game once he took off? Like, there's going to be an explosive passing game here. I forget the stat from Next Gen when Trey played the Texans. Like, that was the most air yards the Niners had in 4 years in one start. So yeah, I absolutely yes to all 3. Yes, there's a little bit of a dig to Jimmy.
4
And
years is
yet-
an interesting time frame there too, right?
Yeah. Christ. CJ Beathard, Nick
The
Mullins.
CJ Beathard era, right? Exactly.
Ugh. Why did we live? We lived through that. We lived through it, guys. We did.
And part like honestly, my first thought with Shanahan drafting Trey Lance went negative because of, and I liked Trey Lance before the draft. I thought Trey Lance was the guy at 12 before the trade up. I was like, ooh, I think ideal situation is Trey Lance falls to 12. I don't think you can pass on him. We were going to be arguing about J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. If the Niners didn't trade up, that's what was crazy about the Niners trade up in the draft. Going back in time, it wasn't like, oh, the 49ers are going to draft a quarterback. It was like, oh, what if a quarterback falls to 12? Do they take Trey Lance? Is he too raw? Like that was the kind of the talk in March, right? And then they traded up and it was like, oh, well, obviously they're going to take a quarterback. And then it was like, oh, it's going to be Mac Jones. Like, wait, what? Mac Jones? And so like the whole conversation got insane. But if the Niners would have waited until draft day to make the trade, legit, like no hyperbole at all, Croc and I would have been arguing about J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain the day before the draft. We wouldn't have even been focusing on quarterbacks. We would have been talking about quarterbacks, and we knew that there was that potential, but that's how much the Niners traded up changed everything last offseason because we weren't sure that the Niners were going to try to move off of Jimmy G, right?
Here's one thing. I follow Benjamin Albright, and Benjamin Albright has good insight. Like why he knows so much about what's going on in the NFL behind the scenes, I have no idea.
It's because
because
he's in Javi's DMs. That's why he knows.
Because he's in Javi's
Other way
DMs.
around.
But Albright said Trey Lance was going number 4 to Atlanta. So there was no Trey Lance at 12. no, and everything he says has come true. So I gotta lean towards whatever Albright says. It's good info.
And that could be completely accurate, but I'm just talking about what our evaluations would have been and what we would have been talking about.
Right.
And I didn't think Justin Fields was going to be at 11. You know, I would have thought he would have been gone by 8 at least. You know, at the
I would
very
have went Micah Parsons at 12.
right. So
That was my guy.
You're a Penn State guy.
Well, I mean, did Micah Parsons not impress everyone? I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying you're a Penn State guy. Though. Like,
I don't know.
True.
I haven't seen any practice footage of him throwing off platform.
No. I don't have that.
Just game film of him being unanimous rookie of the year.
Right. Exactly.
I would have been arguing J.C. Horn or whoever else, even though he was the first corner taken. But that would have been my guy. Like, please fall to the 49ers at 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that would have been very interesting. It would have changed everything. But we're getting off topic here. You actually mentioned something there about Benjamin Albright, and he had a report about John Lynch and Vic Fangio meeting last week, and potentially maybe Fangio circumventing the whole I'm getting paid as a head coach still because I got fired too early, so I'll just work for free as a consultant and still get that paycheck with the 49ers. And then when I think inevitably DeMeco Ryans gets that head coaching job, and I think it's going to be next year, then maybe Vic Fangio jumps in with the 49ers. It turns out it's not exactly that way, but as Matt Miyoko reported today, which is Thursday, he said recently Vic Fangio and John Lynch randomly played a round of golf together, but hearing there's nothing happening along the lines of Fangio joining the 49ers staff, he turned down opportunities after being fired as Broncos head coach. Right now seems like Fangio will take the year off. So Fangio is going to take the year off. He's not taking any of those defensive coordinator jobs, which he should be at the top of every single list of defensive coordinators in the NFL. And he's going to collect that head coach paycheck for a year and then maybe jump back in, which is still really good news for the 49ers because maybe Vic Fangio is again going to become defensive coordinator for the 49ers. I want to ask you guys about that, what your thoughts are about Vic Fangio as potentially being the Niners DC, and then we'll get out of here and then we'll hang out and with the chat, but we'll get out of here for the regular podcast after this. But first of all, what I want to say here is, and I know Mayoko's relaying information that he's getting and a nice little bit of breaking news from Ayoko, but randomly, am I to believe that an NFL former head coach and an NFL GM just got paired up at a local golf course accidentally? They randomly got paired up. Come on, Matt. Come on, Mayoko. I was born on a Thursday, or I was born on a Wednesday. I was not born yesterday. Okay. There was not a random meeting on a golf course of Vic
Yesterday
Fangio
was Wednesday, though.
on Lynch. There is something to this. Vic Fangio, your thoughts, guys, the next defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I think he will be the next defensive coordinator for 49ers, depending on how. Well, no, I think D'Amico's gonna get a head coaching job. I don't see how this defense falls out of the top 10 in most categories next year with the talent that they have, and then depending on how they draft, defensively, I think we all know they're gonna probably take a defensive end at some point. It's one of those handshake over drinks, over a cocktail. Hey, listen, Vic, I want you to look at thinking of switching over from your 3-4 defense to a 4-3. Hey, watch some Nick Bosa tape and Fred Warner. Tell us how you want to utilize him, blah, blah, blah. Hey, any guys you want us to draft this year? That you might want to work with next year.
Yeah.
Like, there's
and
a whole
he's like,
bunch of stuff there.
And Vic's like, yeah, all cornerbacks. Draft
Please.
7 cornerbacks because
All
Vic
of them.
Fangio loves cornerbacks. That's one thing that will change if Vic comes to San Francisco because he loves himself some cornerbacks. The 49ers might spend some resources there. But
he ain't drafting any first-round corners, though, and that's 49er fans' big issue. They think 49ers should take corners first. And
Patrick Surtain drafted him last year.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm tripping. I'm thinking with his time with the 49ers.
Well, with the 49ers, yeah. But still, they spent some money. Carlos Rogers, Nate. He wasn't here for Nate Clements, right? What year was that?
Nah.
No,
They had Rodgers, Tremaine Brock, Terrell Brown, Parrish Cox,
Chris Culliver.
They drafted a lot of corners, but really a lot of mid-round guys.
But mid-round
guys, Dante Whitner and stuff. So yeah,
they drafted a lot of mid-round corners.
Niners haven't drafted first-round corners since like Ahmed Plummer and R.W. McQuarters. Man, it's been a while.
Yeah,
wasn't Mike Rumph the first rounder too?
Rumph,
and
yeah.
Mike Rumph, yeah.
I don't know why I liked him so much. I think the 24 did it for me. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I like Mike Rumph too. I liked a lot of those. I was young and naive then. Thought Rashawn.
I was like, Miami player? Sure, he's going to be good.
Exactly.
I don't like drafting corners high. Like not in today's game. You get beat too much. I don't think it matters where you draft a guy. He's going to get beat.
I think, and this is actually let's tease this topic for when we jump into the chat here and keep this thing going live. We got to get out of here for the audio only podcast. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for making your first listen every day. Locked On 49ers. We appreciate you for your second listen. Check out Croc doing Locked On NFL Draft. Javi's doing Mondays on the Niners Nation pod, 4th and Gold. He's all over the place getting to his DMs. If you got any nice little grainy footage of something that we shouldn't be seeing, send that to @Javi Veg _ on Twitter and stick around and let's chat a little bit about all things 49ers right now. We can have some fun. We can get off topic a little bit. We're not going to hang out super late tonight, but appreciate all of you. Check out also Peacock and Williamson podcast, talking about the entire league daily right here on the network. Locked On Bets, talking about the betting world every day on the network. Your team, no matter the sport, is covered on the Locked On Podcast Network. Croc and I back tomorrow. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers. Okay. All right, guys. I already forgot what my tease was. What was my tease? We were talking about...
I was talking about corners.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Why... Javi, answer me this question, because Croc kind of like he dodges this every single time.
He's biased. He's a corner.
How come corners and defensive backs can't catch?
I don't know. What do you mean I dodge it? I had what?
That wasn't my question. That wasn't my real question. I know Croc has pure hands. I've seen him kick. I've seen him throw. I've seen him catch. I saw him get rejected by the rim when he tried to dunk one time.
Oh my God.
He's an athlete. I mean, he's a legitimate athlete.
And he puts the Crocs in sports mode. Like, I know what it is.
Yeah. Sport mode. He'll kick a 35.
I'm out here kicking in Crocs, man.
I don't know how you haven't gotten that sponsorship, by the way.
I know they're tripping. I need to really holler at them. Like, man, stop playing.
But that's one thing the 49ers have done a great job of. And I think day one, I want to talk about some Senior Bowl prospects, by the way, Javi.
Yeah.
I think day one,
you see it.
Oh, there we go. They're the Crocs. He's got them on right now. John Lynch's like whole plan from the start. It was like he's going to draft high character players. He's going to draft players that play their ass off, and he's going to really, as a defensive back. See, this is what's interesting because he's not trying to draft safeties in the first round, right? He's trying to draft defensive linemen because he knew what they did for him. And I think the 49ers have done a really good job of becoming what the mission statement was originally when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were hired. And I think there's been some ups and downs, and obviously they've missed on a lot of draft picks too, but they've hit on a lot of guys, and a lot of their success is because the team has been built pretty much exactly like John Lynch has stated. And I don't think highly drafted defensive backs is a part of that plan.
No, I don't think so either. I think they're still going to stick with their plan. You know, part of me wants them to take a safety in round 2 at 61. Like I'm stuck on Jalen Petrie out of Baylor. He had a really nice Senior Bowl. Leon O'Neal Jr. out of Texas A&M. Nick Cross out of Maryland's another player that I really like. Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State, another Penn State guy. But I just think I think they should invest a little bit more in the secondary, but I think they would go safety. I think they value their safeties more than they value their corners, right? Jimmy Ward, Kwaski Tart, they keep drafting these safety linebacker hybrid type guys. Like they want to cover the middle of the field more so because that's kind of where the game has gone. Over the middle, you got these guys who can, crash down in the line of scrimmage. But
especially if you're playing against the 49ers.
Yeah, but what's hurt them though, what's hurt them this year is those deep shots because Josh Norman can't keep up, so you got to hold somebody. Ambry Thomas had a hard go of it beginning of the year. Diamador Lenore was getting cooked in some of the practice film that I saw. And then you have, even in games, he wasn't doing his thing. Emmanuel Moses is the only serviceable corner.
You didn't post the people getting cooked. You didn't post the bad stuff.
No, man, I need to keep it positive. I'm tired of the negativity on the Twitter.
Do you have any? Just answer me this. I don't want you to post it. Do you have a clip from practice of Tre Lance throwing like a bad interception?
No, I don't have one.
Listen, this is if you're talking about addressing the cornerback situation. One, I would not. He would have to be really special and just bring something different than me thinking that he's just gonna be a shutdown guy like a J.C. Horn. Like I was so high on J.C. Horn because he brought a different mentality, a different sense of leadership, mindset. Like he just brought something different to the game and that tenaciousness. All right, versatility, but I'm not high on drafting corners because they are going to get beat. And I think fans think, oh, if I draft this guy first round, he's going to be this lockdown guy. That's not the case. Hell, we just saw the best corner in the NFL, Jalen Ramsey, get cooked in the Super Bowl. Like it's just going to happen the way the game is so spread out, wide open, and the way it's so pass happy and all the penalties work against secondary members. So what would I do? I would go more towards mid-round guys and not really load up on mid-round cornerbacks, defensive backs. Now, if they would have asked me, I would have said, hey, Diamador Lenore, he struggles a little bit to run vertically with guys. Like, so yeah, he profiles more as a nickel. That's not to say he can't play outside. We'll see. I think he profiles more as a nickel guy. So if you put him on the outside, there is a chance guys can run by him. That happened against Philadelphia. Right, I saw it early on against Kansas City in the preseason where I'm like, man, he's not getting his head around. Why he's not getting his head around? The passes were incomplete. I'm like, I think he lacks that next step, like that next gear to be able to get in phase earlier and get his head around and make a play on the ball. So load up on mid-round guys, but they need to come to me. I'm telling you, I'll scout some mid-round DBs for him. That fans, they'll be more than serviceable.
I think me and Croc agreed at the Senior Bowl. McCreary, that's a guy that I would like him in the mid rounds. Like I think he'd be perfect, right? If you're gonna,
I think the 49ers are picking in the second round right now, McCreary out of Auburn, he'd be a terrific 61st overall pick. Might go higher, but if he's there, terrific 61st overall pick.
And I think you said it when we were talking. Like you take the best player available at 61. Who do you have graded higher? Your corner, your wide receiver, your edge player. Like if Boye's sitting there at 61 and you got McCreary, who you taking? I'm taking Boye.
I'm going Boye. I'm going the edge.
Yeah, you're right. But if Boye's gone,
and they just affect more on a play-to-play basis.
Yeah. So like if it's Petrie sitting there at 61 and McCreary, then it's like, wait, I already have two corners, but I need a safety because we don't know what we Tart isn't back and Tavarius Moore isn't back with his Achilles injury. Then you got to take a safety. But if let's just hypothetically, let's just say Tavarius Moore is healthy, then you go with your best player available. And if McCreary is there and you have another wide receiver, I would rather just go with the corner than the wide receiver because I trust Kyle Shanahan to get anybody open, right? It doesn't matter. Like Juwan Jennings isn't the fastest guy in the world. He was getting open and he was getting, you have a different element in the pass game with Trey Lance. So those are the differences there. But I mean, this Senior Bowl showed us that this draft class is going to be stocked in the middle, like the middle, from 75 to like 150. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be pretty damn good as long as they're in the right situation.
And that's perfect because that's where the 49ers are going to have a whole bunch of picks, and they might get some extra picks here from Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll find out exactly where they are. Casey asks, any hope for Tarvarius? And I've seen a few more questions about Tarvarius Moore. The reason he's not a free agent is because he was on IR all year, which is it's a kind of a raw deal for players. Although you have a torn Achilles and you didn't play all year, you're probably not going to get a lot of money in free agency anyway. So maybe it doesn't affect a lot, but it sucks that a player is on, you're on the team and your contract doesn't toll for your fourth year. So you have an extra year before you become a free agent. That's kind of a rough deal. So the 49ers, Tarvarius Moore, he's been in the league for 4 years and he as a late third round draft pick. He should be a free agent, but he is not because he was on IR all year. Didn't get that credit for a season. And so now he is back with the 49ers this year. I think he's going to be a factor. I think he has to be a factor because I really feel like the 49ers are going to let Tart walk. I think they're going to draft a safety as well. And I think we're going to see a nice little competition. You've got Jimmy Ward. He might get, I don't know if he'll get extended, but he might have his contract restructured in a way that they can't get out of it very soon. So they might lock him in an extra year or so.
I'd extend Ward. I would extend him, give him a 2-year extension.
From that standpoint, and if you're going to let Tart walk, you almost have to make sure that you have some, you solidify your secondary there with Jimmy Ward. So Ward, you let the strong safety position figure itself out. You let Tarvarius battle. You see what he is after a torn Achilles. Maybe he can't play at all again in the NFL. Maybe he's a star. You let Talanoa Hufanga fight for that, and you probably draft a guy and you let that guy fight for it too. So I think that's probably the way the 49ers will go about it. And I think Tart is one of the ways they can save some money, even though Tart's a really good player and not someone the Niners should necessarily toss aside or anything. But I think that's the way the 49ers will probably go about it. And which round they draft a safety is my question, not if they draft a safety.
And I will say this, I'm 100% out on Hufanga as a starter. Like I'm just out.
I think his profile is more as a third safety.
Exactly.
I like when they do some things where they, they'll drop Ward down, play him in some man coverage, and they have too high, Tart, Hufanga, things like that. Like as a third safety, I like him in that type of role on the field. But as like your primary guy, I think the jury's still out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to write him off though, but I would be potentially looking for another safety if you don't bring Tart back.
And I'm 95% sure Tart's gone. Like
yeah,
that other 5% is like, maybe they'll give him a little bit, a little bump in pay. But I think for me, I feel like the Jets are going to come get him.
Right. I think he's a perfect fit for the Jets. But the way Tart comes back is the way he came back last year is that maybe there's not a lot of money out there for Tart in free agency. And he, likes the Niners situation. And if he's there at the right number, then the Niners should absolutely bring him back. I've seen Tyrann Mathieu's name thrown out there because he's a free agent, and I'm sure the 49ers like him. Could you bring in Tyrann Mathieu, Croc, as not only a safety, but also your nickel guy? Because the Niners could move on from both K'Wan and Tart. Maybe you combine that dollar amount because you have some depth and you draft a couple other guys and you bring on Mathieu to kind of replace both of them at the same time and get better.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that to have a guy with his versatility. You kind of have it with Jimmy Ward, right? Essentially, they do some of that same stuff now. Mathieu has played a different defense, and if you listen to Jimmy Ward before the season, he talked about how guys like Mathieu, they've had more free range to do different things. But maybe you bring a guy like Mathieu in to do those things and play out in space, and he takes the ball away and he does a terrific job of reading quarterbacks and jumping passes. One thing I hear about him, the cerebral aspect to his game. He's extremely intelligent, extremely smart on the field. And I think that's why it's not a coincidence he makes so many plays. So I would love to see two guys like that. I'm really big on playmaking guys that are in coverage. And I think Mathieu, he's definitely that.
Jamal says, sorry, real quick. Jamal says Peppers over Mathieu. Feel like Peppers could be cheaper. Peppers will be cheaper than Mathieu probably, but Peppers is not worth spending money on to me. I think he's not that good of a player. I would not at all spend money on Peppers. That's just me.
I think the safety market is just be so flooded. There's so many guys that are available, and this class is deep. Another guy that's available out of Detroit, Tracy Wilson. That's another guy to look for. And of course, this draft class it's stocked with safety. So it's like, all right, not Croc. All right, Tar, here you go. Go ahead and test the market while we go draft this young guy. You can come back as a depth guy because we're going to move forward with such and such player, right? And it's league wide. Like, Marcus May, he's a free agent. He tore his Achilles. So what happens to him? There's a lot of moving pieces at the safety position, and it's not as lucrative a market, for the players. They just kind of have to deal with it. So they're going to probably take less league wide just to land on a team.
Javi, I know you were at the Senior Bowl. If you were drafting just from the Senior Bowl, is there any players you saw that this is the guy at 61? This is the guy at 93. Oh, this is one of those 5th round picks that the 49ers somehow find a star player in every single year.
To me, Boye at 61 would be a home run pick. If Boye is there at 61, like him paired with Chris Kuceric and the ability to play on the opposite side of Nick Bosa while having potentially a healthy Kinlaw.
Give me a counter report. What do you like about him? What does he bring into the table for you as a prospect that you would pound the table for him?
To me, I think he's got great bend, good speed, good burst. He's got good length on him. The bend was what really pushed it over for me. And then he has ability to certain speed to power. He was moving tackles and all over the place, but something that me and Croc were talking about while we were there, he's still got to learn to play with technique, right? He's still playing with his athleticism first before his technique. And that'll get you beat sometimes. And he did he got held up a little bit. That's where some coaching is going to have to come into play, where Chris Kuceric can kind of coach that stuff up with him and get him going. The other guy, Cole Strange is another guy that I think in the 5th round would be an ideal project center to learn behind Alex Mack out of Chattanooga. I like the way he played. There's no chance in hell we're getting Zion Johnson out of Boston College, but Cole Strange was a guy I really liked. And then I have the list here. And the other kid from Connecticut, I think it's Tyler Jones.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
Tyler Jones, the defensive tackle. Like, if you're not going to bring DJ Jones back, Travis Jones out of Connecticut, I would like to have that kid at 93.
I just saw him in a mock draft recently. I don't know if it was to the Niners, but it was in that late 3rd round zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the same thought. And I watched a little bit of him. And yeah, like, look, nose tackles, that's if you want to say you can't spend a lot of money on DJ Jones because he's a nose tackle, I would get that. But I also think that's why he's not going to get a lot of money on the free agent market, which is why the 49ers can probably bring him back. And I also worry about the value of Javon Kinlaw I fully believe, and I think, Croc, you're on board with me on this, that if DJ Jones walks, and I still think no matter what, that Eric Armstead belongs inside and should play that 3-tech spot. So do you put your 1st round pick? It's like a sort of a waste of value there, like a waste of resources to have a 1st round guy that's playing nose. And I know that it's not like an old 0-tech nose that the 49ers are playing, that really anybody's playing anymore. So it's not quite to that level, but is it a waste of a 1st round pick if you're playing Kinlaw at nose tackle?
I don't think so. I mean, if he's dominant there and Armstead is as productive at the 3-tech as he was at the end of last season, then I think you're just utilizing your players to the best of their abilities and you're making it work. And I don't think Kinlaw right now is a 3-down guy. I think he's more of a 2-down guy. I think if you just say, hey, I don't need you to be this pure pass rusher every rep. Hey, just focus on stopping the run. That's your job. Stop the run, take on double teams, be strong against that. And maybe change it from him having to be this high sack guy and let Armstead work off of him. I think that's where you'll get more production out of him that way, I believe. And he's a big guy. I've heard he kind of slimmed down a little bit, but naturally he's massive. And they were talking about him even at South Carolina. He was a guy that could get up to 340 pounds without even trying. Like that's a nose.
I think he would almost like that. He'd be like, because they're probably probably every off season since he's been in college, his coaching staff has been like, "Hey, Javon, we want you to lose 10 pounds this offseason." If the coaching staff came to Javon Kinlaw and say, "Hey, you're okay if you get to 350," he'd probably be like, "Oh, that's sweet. All right, let's go." So maybe that's the way to treat Javon Kinlaw, as sort of a nose tackle at this point. And I don't know what he's going to look like coming off an injury, but obviously as a number 13 overall pick, he's been pretty disappointing so far for the 49ers. I want to go to DBs because I know you guys both watched a lot of DBs. Croc, it's your specialty. And the Jedi was the first guy in the chat, the first person, sorry, guy or girl in the chat tonight. And he, like Lewis Cine is the name that I keep seeing popping up out of Georgia, right, Croc? What are your thoughts there on Lewis Cine, the safety in round 2?
I haven't watched him yet. We don't get to our DBs until like 2 weeks from now. So I haven't I've watched some guys here and there,
Croc,
but
you're watching DBs every night before you go to bed. What are you talking about?
I know not this year because I got to talk so much about all these other positions. So I've had to focus more. So like typically I'd have the wide receivers and DBs all like who I like, all this and that, know the ins and outs of everybody. This year I've had to watch tight ends. I just did a show on tight ends. I've had to watch tackles, guards. I've had to watch so many other positions. I haven't even gotten to the secondary guys yet.
All right. Well, according to BSE, he's a first rounder, so the Niners don't have to worry about him unless they get that sneaky first rounder in trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, which I don't think is going to happen. If they do get one, it won't be in the 2022 draft. Before we go, Javi, who is the player that the 49ers draft in round 5 that becomes like this stud starter that they've somehow been able to find multiple times in multiple drafts since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over?
Ooh, I was gonna say a name, but I don't. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. Cole Strange, center out of Chattanooga.
I love it. I mean, the Niners need a center for sure.
I mean, think about it. Since Kyle's been here, you had Daniel Kilgore. You extend him, you trade him, you go sign Richburg. His career ends because of injury. Then you run it with Ben Garland and Daniel Brunskill, and then you go to Alex Mack. Like, you haven't had a consistent center since you've been here. So let's try to mold a guy, right, who fits a similar profile as Alex Mack. And Cole Strange fits that profile. I think he can be had at that 160 range, right? In that late 4th, early 5th round pick. And that, to me, that would be ideal. Like, I used to be like the fan of like, yeah, let's get a corner, let's get a wide receiver. Now I'm just like, you know what? Let's focus on trenches because let's get a center quarterback combination that hopefully is here for 10, 12 years.
What did you love about Strange? Because he played some guard right at Chattanooga, and you don't think of Chattanooga as a powerhouse like the SEC that's sending, defensive linemen and offensive linemen in the NFL by the droves every single year. So that's always what's key about the Senior Bowl is when you see a guy from a college like Chattanooga, you're like, okay, well, let's see. You played at Liberty. Let's see what you look like against some of these other prospects. So what did Cole Strange look like to you?
So just the Senior Bowl stuff, I thought he had really good feet, really good hands, strong at the point of attack. He did get beat a few times. Obviously, that's just going to happen. I'm going to talk to him on Sunday, so I'll have a show on Sunday with him. But if you go back, he kind of dominated.
Practice film. I want to see his practice film too, if you can get that.
I have it, yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Well, no, I have just game film. But if you go back to South Carolina.
No. I don't want game film from Hobby. I want practice film. Okay.
No, I don't have that one. Cole Strange kind of dominated Javon Kinlaw when they played against each other. So there's that.
Oh, I've got that saved already. I didn't even realize that was okay. I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm for sure gonna go watch Cole.
So I went back. I was like, wait a second. I was like, dude, you played Kinlaw? He's like, yeah, I played Kinlaw. I was like, okay. So there's something here. Yeah, I just kind of want this team to have a decent center quarterback like marriage. Like, can we just have that too? Like Colin,
like a Jeff Saturday, Peyton Manning.
Correct. Like, let's do that. Let's have that too.
Strange Lance. I feel like that Strange Lance could be that thing. Croc, any names from the Senior Bowl or any prospects that because we're getting close to the combine here. Is there a prospect that you're looking at? It could be at 61. It could be a first round guy. It could be a 7th round guy. Somebody you're looking at the combine where you're like, I really want to see this player run or bench press, whatever. Like, I want to see what this guy looks like in testing, because that'll be huge. Do you have any of those?
I think Calvin Austin, a receiver out of Memphis, smaller guy, measured in a shade under 5'8". He's about 5'7", and dude, this dude Wano, he's on it. Like he's been on every time we say something about somebody,
Yep.
like Wano Matthews in the chat, he is on it. But yeah,
Yep.
so he said it. Memphis slot receiver, Calvin Austin, explosive, that he won routes on from the slot on the outside. Vertically, he just ran by guys. When he was on the outside, you see big physical guys. They want to get at the line of scrimmage. They want to manhandle these smaller guys. He had guys speed turning at the line of scrimmage, winning on slants, winning on comebacks. Shifty guy. Just really liked him live. I went in there not knowing anything about him. I remember somebody was like, "Hey, you need to watch this Calvin Austin guy," and I'm like, "All right, whoever that is." And then I didn't know how tall he was or anything, but once I saw him, I said, "Okay, I get it." And he's someone that could be a return guy. I think
He's
that's
like
a versatile
Darren
piece of
Sproles.
49ers. They don't have 49ers. There's two things they're missing. They don't have that big field stretcher at receiver, and they don't have that pure speed guy. They have guys that can run. Debo can run for sure. I think Debo's faster with the ball in his hands. Aiyuk, he can run. But Calvin Austin, he looks like a speedster. So I want to see whatever I saw at the Senior Bowl, does it match up with how he tests?
Yeah, I think he looks like Darren Sproles to me. He fits that profile. He can do everything. Slot, running back.
No, but Sproles was like
Sproles was
rocked
thicker.
up, though.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
like,
he was.
I mean, he was rocked.
Like,
this dude's like 165.
Yeah, Sproles will meet a linebacker in the hole and pass protect. I don't know if we expect that from Austin, but speed is there. Like, I have no doubts that guy's going to fly. So where is he going to be? Is he going to be available for the 49ers? It's going to be a fun draft. And I'm with you, Javi. You said something important earlier. And I think the 49ers, if there's one reason they've been bad at drafting earlier in the draft, I think they've been sort of forced themselves into need in some ways. And I think that was really what drove the Aaron Banks pick in the second round this year. And probably, obviously, they drafted 2 running backs, so they were looking at running backs, and probably the Trey Sermon pick too. And they traded up for Trey Sermon, right? So I think the 49ers, whether it's at 61, 93, whatever pick they get for Jimmy G. I saw a question earlier in the chat if they were, if the 49ers could move up, if John Lynch would move up. Oh, absolutely. John Lynch is going to move. He might move down, but he's going to move somewhere, and he might move up. And if the 49ers get a couple of picks for Jimmy G or a pick for Jimmy G, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the 49ers are moving up. I just hope they're not moving up to fill needs, and they're moving up to draft the best player available, because last year they absolutely left some really good players on the board when they drafted Aaron Banks. And even if Aaron Banks turns out to be a pretty good guard in the NFL, and I'm not so sure that's going to happen, they still passed up some really good players at other positions that was completely unnecessary. And I don't want to see him reaching for need in this draft. And they have too good of a roster to be reaching for need. Go find that in free agency, go figure that out, and then draft for the best players available. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think the Niners would put Banks at left guard and McKivitz at right guard?
I think if they don't re-sign Tomlinson, then it's going to be a training camp battle between their draft picks from last year. It'll be Banks versus Moore. Yeah, and I think
McKivitz is still around, and Justin School is another name that's forgotten.
McKivitz played better at tackle, to be honest.
Yeah,
and he's sort of a longer guy. I think McKivitz is a backup, no matter what position we're talking about. I think Moore could legitimately be a starter. I think it'll be Moore. If Tomlinson doesn't come back, I think it'll be Moore versus Banks, and I think Moore wins.
I listen to Matt Mayogo quite a bit. He always drops these little nuggets. He was like, who'd benefit from a Laken Tomlinson? He's like, the Cincinnati Bengals. He's like, I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. I was like, you mother. Oh my God. So yeah.
What about? The obvious one is the Miami Dolphins, right?
You think McGlinchey goes? You think McGlinchey gets traded to Miami?
I could see anybody. I saw somebody talking about, and this is what's tough about this time of year, and we got to go, guys. But what's tough about this time of year is what's actually reported and what's a rumor and what is just like someone threw out there and somehow sticks and people talk about it. So sometimes I'll see something in the chat or I'll see something on Twitter. It's like, hey, what about the rumor about George Kittle getting traded? I'm like, what are you talking about? Who reported this? Where did this even come from? This is completely made up, right? And so I see a lot of those types of things.
Came from Eric
and-
Crocker.
right. Yeah. It's like, did Eric Crocker report that? I don't know how that guy even got a check mark. It's ridiculous. But like, do you think there's any big splash things that could happen? And like, Trey Lance getting traded and the Niners go sign or go make a move for Tom Brady, or George Kittle getting traded to the Miami Dolphins. Like, those are some of the things I've seen, and they're not legitimate reports that I've seen out there. But do you think there's something like crazy under the radar, huge, that could happen this offseason?
I mean, the only thing that, I don't know, McGlinchey and Greenlaw seem like good trade candidates to me. Like, those would be the two.
I don't know if anybody's going to want to take on McGlinchey's 5th-year contract.
Yeah. It's only $10 million. It's 10 and a half.
I think it has
10 and a half with somebody that is playing with half a quad on his leg.
I think it makes sense for only certain teams. So when you're talking about we're talking about the Jets, who are trying to implement Robert Saleh's defense, right? And they need players at a lot of places. Go sign Tart and go trade for Greenlaw.
Yep.
And you got two pieces from a Super Bowl starting defense right there, right? And for the Miami Dolphins, you're trying to get better on the offensive line. Go spend too much money on Tomlinson. It would suck for the Niners, but if he hits free agency, go spend too much money on Tomlinson and then offer picks for McGlinchey.
And 49ers get a comp pick. The more he gets paid, right? A higher comp pick.
Yeah.
For the following year.
Absolutely. Yep, they would. And and by the way, you know what's going to happen? Let's end on this. This is what's going to happen in Miami. The Miami Dolphins are going to sign Richie James, who's finally going to become a superstar, but it's going to be for the Miami Dolphins and not the San Francisco 49ers. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and Jimmy's going to throw the ball down the field past 25 yards. I got
it. He might, because whatever coach he plays for, there's something to it. I think there's something to Shanahan plus Jimmy, because Jimmy's strengths are also Kyle Shanahan's play calling strengths. I think there was some like multiples that made the 49ers offense be so stuck in one area of the field, because Jimmy Garoppolo didn't check the ball down a lot and also didn't throw the ball deep down the field. And and Kyle Shanahan's like aggressively conservative, right? So he wants to
aggressively prudent.
Yeah, he doesn't call plays for his running backs, right? He wants to get the ball to his playmakers in the intermediate level, and he's not really worried about the deep ball, and he wants the ball out in 3 steps. And so I think there's some bad combination of Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan that maybe both of them are better without each other in some ways. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see Jimmy Garoppolo in another offense somewhere, and he's kind of throwing the ball down the field a little bit more, maybe a little bit more outside the numbers, maybe checking it down a little bit more too. Just like it just looks a little bit different, and it should in another offense, right? And I wouldn't be shocked at all if with Tre Lance, it looks a lot different than with Jimmy Garoppolo, just because of his ability and his willingness to chuck the ball down the field and maybe pass up that first slant. There might be a really, really tight throw where Jimmy G's like, well, this is where I'm supposed to go. It's my first read. There's a crack, so I'm going to go for it. Where Tre Lance says, no, I'm turning that down, and I'm going to spin out of here and chuck it down the field or something. So I think maybe there's a slight chance that both, maybe not for the better, but maybe for the better, but just it looks a lot different. Both Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan's offenses next year, wherever Jimmy ends up, I think there's a chance they look a lot different. And maybe Jimmy is not quite so focused, because I just think that the combination of Jimmy and Kyle was just so focused on the middle of the field that maybe they'll be better off apart.
Maybe. We'll see. I'm not buying it. I won't.
All right. I appreciate you, Javi, for jumping on the show with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's always fun chatting ball with you, and we'll have to do it again before the draft, because I know you are super into the draft, and I'm slow. This is the slowest I've ever gotten into the draft this year. Croc, there's been some tweets about me hiring you as my co-GM for the Shadow 49ers draft. I was thinking about retiring the Shadow 49ers draft this year. I don't know if I've got the budget to take on a co-GM, but we could talk about that maybe have your agent call my agent, and we'll figure some of this stuff out. But
Yeah.
Croc and I will be back next week talking 49ers as we do. It's draft season. It's free agent season. We're going to start diving in closer to position by position. Croc is looking more at those defensive backs, so we're going to dive deeper into those players. Who's there on the free agent market, who's there in the trade market, who's there in the draft at every position for the 49ers. What are the 49ers' biggest needs? It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a very interesting offseason. And, of course, the Jimmy Garoppolo trade news is going to happen at some point this offseason, so we'll have fun talking about that as well. Javi, appreciate you. Croc, love you. Listeners, love you as always. Appreciate all you guys jumping on with the chat with us live. Talk to you tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. We'll talk to you Monday right here. Locked On 49.